I was lying on the bathroom floor, dizzy from an ulcer, clutching my side. My wife stepped over me, rolled her eyes, and said, "If you're gonna die, do it quietly. The neighbors already think you're pathetic." I tried to get up. She flushed the toilet, walked out, and slammed the door. I drove myself to the ER. 2 months later, she regretted everything she said. Throwaway for obvious reasons. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Never thought I'd be one of those guys sharing their marriage drama on Reddit, but here we are. Me, 31M, and Stephanie, 29F, have been married for almost 6 years. Things weren't always bad. Actually, the first 4 years were pretty decent. We had our fights like any couple, but nothing major. Looking back now, I can see how things started sliding downhill about 2 years ago. Little comments here and there, eye rolls when I spoke, interrupted me constantly. The classic jokes that weren't really jokes. I kept telling myself it was just a phase. We were both stressed with life stuff. The economy's been garbage. Our apartment building changed management, and the new guys are total slumlords. The basement started getting this black mold issue after a pipe burst in the unit next door, and the management company kept forgetting to send someone to fix it properly. So yesterday, Stephanie says the basement smell is getting worse and asked me to go clean the mold again. Third time this month, BTW. No big deal, right? Just normal husband stuff. I grab my mask and gloves from the closet since that black stuff is nasty. Head down there with bleach and brushes and get to work. The basement in our building is like something out of a horror movie. Bad lighting, weird sounds from the pipes, always slightly damp. And now, with black mold creeping up the walls like something from a sci-fi movie. I'm down there scrubbing for like an hour, sweating through my shirt because it's humid AF even though it's only like 70 degrees outside. And then, my phone dings. Text from Stephanie. "Don't forget to take out the trash when you're done, including yourself." I literally stopped scrubbing and just stared at my phone. Like, was that supposed to be funny? We joke around sometimes, but this felt different. Still, I figured maybe she was just being sarcastic or something. So I finish up, shower, and head upstairs. That's when she said it. I walked into the kitchen where she was scrolling through TikTok on the couch and mentioned her text, thinking we'd laugh it off. She didn't even look up from her phone. Just said, "You're not good for anything except getting dirty. You're like a broken tool I haven't thrown away yet." The way she said it, completely flat. No emotion. Like she was commenting on the weather or something. That's what got me. It wasn't said in anger. It was just a statement of fact to her. I didn't even know what to say. Like my brain just blue screen. I mumbled something about needing to check if I'd left anything in the basement and went back downstairs. Ended up sitting on the basement steps for almost 2 hours just thinking. Going through our relationship in my head. All the little digs. All the times she'd made me feel small. All the times I'd brushed it off because that's just how she jokes. Or she's just stressed. When I finally went back up, she was already in bed. I grabbed a blanket from the closet and went back to the basement. Petty? Maybe. But I couldn't bring myself to sleep next to her. Ended up curled up next to the water heater because it was the warmest spot down there. Didn't sleep much. Spent most of the night using my phone, looking through our accounts and messages. That's when I found some interesting stuff. Remember how I said money's been tight? Turns out Stephanie's been hiding money. We have a joint account, but I discovered she'd opened a separate account almost a year ago. Been transferring small amounts. Not enough for me to notice when I glanced at our statements, but enough to add up to almost $7,000 over time. There were also messages with her friend Lindsay about how she was so done with me and just waiting for the right time to have the talk. Messages from 3 months ago. By 5 a.m., I'd made my decision. I packed a bag while she was still sleeping, took screenshots of everything I'd found, transferred my latest paycheck out of our joint account, left enough for rent and bills, and walked out. Called my buddy Tristan, who agreed to let me crash at his place for a bit. Didn't tell anyone else where I was going. Turned off location sharing on my phone. Just disappeared. Stephanie woke up around 7:30 based on when the texts started flooding in. 7:34 a.m. Where are you? 7:46 a.m. Knox, hello? 8:12 a.m. This isn't funny. Where did you go? 8:34 a.m. Are you seriously this childish? Sleeping in the basement wasn't enough drama for you? 9:15 a.m. Your boss called, said you called in sick. Where the hell are you? 10:23 a.m. Please just tell me you're okay. 11:47 a.m. I'm sorry about what I said. I was just stressed. Please come home. I ignored all of them. Let her stew in it. By afternoon, she was calling my friends. Most of them played dumb because they're good bros. She even called my mom, who thankfully respected my wishes when I told her not to tell Stephanie anything except that I was safe. It's been 24 hours now. I've talked to a lawyer, virtually, and started making plans. The way I see it, she's been plotting her exit strategy for months, squirreling away cash, emotionally checking out, treating me like garbage. Well, if I'm trash, then I'm taking myself out and taking everything else with me. I've documented the separate account, the messages, the pattern of emotional abuse. The lawyer says I've got a solid case for a favorable divorce settlement in our state. And just about an hour ago, she showed up at Tristan's door. Don't know how she found me, probably through process of elimination since I wasn't answering my phone. She was crying, makeup all streaked down her face, begging me to come out and talk. I watched through the peephole as Tristan told her I wasn't there. The look on her face, part of me felt a twinge of something. Pity? Regret? But then I remembered sitting in that moldy basement, scrubbing walls while she texted me to take myself out with the trash. Funny how she only started caring when I actually took her advice. This is just the beginning. The real garbage removal starts now. Update. It's been 2 weeks since my last post. 2 weeks of radio silence from my end toward Stephanie, not you guys. 2 weeks of her slowly realizing that maybe, just maybe, calling your husband trash and a broken tool has actual consequences. First things first. I moved out of Tristan's place after 3 days, not because he wasn't a good host. Dude literally gave me his bedroom while he slept on the couch, but because Stephanie kept showing up. At first it was just her. Then she started bringing reinforcements. Her sister, her best friend Lindsay, even tried sending her mom once, which was peak awkward, considering her mom has always low-key hated me. So I bounced to an Airbnb, paid cash, used a friend's account, complete ghost mode, told only 2 people where I was staying, Tristan and my brother Albert. Albert actually came through clutch during all this. More on that later. Day after my last post, I met with a divorce attorney through a video call. Showed him the screenshots, the bank statements, the texts. He didn't even blink, just nodded, and said he's seen worse, but I definitely had enough for a solid case. His exact words were something like, emotional abuse leaves fingerprints just like physical abuse. They're just harder for some people to see. That hit me. While Stephanie was blowing up my phone, 78 texts in 1 day, new personal record, I was quietly making moves. Set up mail forwarding to a P.O. box, opened new bank accounts at a different bank, changed direct deposit for my paychecks, pulled my name off our streaming services, petty but satisfying. Most importantly, started documenting everything that last one. Man, once I started looking through old texts and emails with fresh eyes, it was like seeing our relationship for the first time, the constant put-downs disguised as jokes. The way she'd tell stories to our friends that made me look incompetent. How she'd accidentally forget to pass along messages or invitations meant for me. There was this text from last Christmas where I spent hours setting up lights outside our apartment. She wanted them. I hate heights. And her only response was, the neighbor's display makes ours look like a dollar store. At the time, I laughed it off. Reading it now made my stomach turn. The financial stuff was even more eye-opening. Our money problems suddenly made sense when I traced where funds were actually going. That separate account I mentioned, turns out it wasn't just for saving. Stephanie had been spending on all kinds of shit she told me we couldn't afford. Expensive lunches, clothes, weekend trips with Lindsay that she told me were work conferences. Day 5 of ghost mode, I finally responded to one text. All I said was, all communication through my attorney from now on, with his contact in. Then blocked her on everything except email, which I muted but kept open as a documentation channel. That's when things went nuclear. She showed up at my workplace twice. Security had to escort her out the second time. Then she tried triangulating through friends. Suddenly, everyone was getting messages about how worried she was about my mental health and erratic behavior. Classic Darvo move. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. The wildest part? It kind of worked on some people. Our mutual friend Brody actually called to ask if I was having a breakdown. That conversation was revealing. Me. So she didn't mention calling me trash while I was cleaning toxic mold from our basement? Brody. No. She said you guys had a small argument and you just snapped. Me. Did she tell you about hiding $7,000 in a secret account? Brody. What? No. She said you guys were saving for a house. This pattern repeated with several friends. Each time I'd just calmly share my side without embellishment. No ranting, no character assassination, just facts. Screenshots when necessary. The shift in their responses was immediate, from concerned about me to shocked about her. By the end of week 1, the tide was turning. Stephanie's social media went from concerned wife looking for missing husband to angry rants about men who can't communicate to tearful pleas for reconciliation. The comment section on her posts went from supportive to conspicuously quiet as people figured out what was really going on. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Found a month-to-month apartment. Nothing fancy, just a studio with decent internet. Bought the essentials from a second-hand store. Albert helped me move the few things I'd managed to grab from our place when Stephanie was at work. It's sparse, but it's mine, and it doesn't have black mold. The financial squeeze started hitting her around day 10. See, I'd been paying about 70% of our expenses because she always claimed her job didn't pay enough. Another lie. Turns out she makes almost as much as I do. Suddenly, all those subscription services were due. The credit card bills arrived. Rent was coming up. Her emails went from angry to panicked. Day 10. You can't just abandon our financial obligations. This is childish. Day 12. The landlord called about rent. What am I supposed to tell him? Day 13. Please, just talk to me. I can't cover everything by myself. My attorney advised me on exactly what I was legally obligated to pay, which was shockingly little, given that we don't have kids or own property together. I set up automatic payments for exactly that amount and not a penny more. Throughout all this, I kept reminding myself of that moment in the basement, that feeling of being utterly disposable, a broken tool, trash. It kept me from wavering when doubt crept in. The most surreal moment came last weekend. Our friend Jennifer was having a housewarming, small gathering, maybe 15 people. I decided to go, figuring Stephanie wouldn't show given everything happening. Wrong. I was chatting with Jennifer's boyfriend when Stephanie walked in. The room didn't exactly go silent, but there was this collective intake of breath, that awkward energy when everyone knows there's drama but tries to act normal. She looked rough, hair unwashed, bags under her eyes, wearing the same sweater she'd had for 3 years that she always complained about but never replaced. Our eyes met across the room. For a split second, I felt this weird vertigo, like looking at a stranger wearing my wife's face. Then she burst into tears, not quiet, dignified crying, full-on sobbing, mascara rivers, the works. Jennifer tried to comfort her, but Stephanie pushed her away and pointed at me, started shouting about how I'd ruined her life, abandoned her, turned everyone against her, said I was cruel and calculating and she didn't even recognize me anymore. I just stood there, cup of soda in hand, watching this person I'd spent 6 years with completely unravel. And you know what I felt? Nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not even pity, just emptiness, like watching a storm through a window from a safe, dry place. Eventually, Jennifer's boyfriend and another guy gently escorted her outside. I heard later she sat in her car for almost an hour before driving away. The party never really recovered, and I left early. That night, lying in my new bed in my empty apartment, I scrolled through old photos of us. Happy times, vacations, our wedding. Tried to feel something. Grief, longing, anger, anything. But all I could think was, that person in the photos never existed. She was always the person who could call me trash. I just refused to see it. The divorce paperwork goes out tomorrow. My attorney says she'll be served at work. Said it's better that way. Less chance of a scene. Witnesses if she reacts badly. I've blocked most of our mutual friends temporarily. Not out of spite, but just to create space for what's coming. Yesterday, I found a small piece of mold on my bathroom ceiling. Cleaned it immediately. Opened the window, ran the fan. Some habits die hard. But this time, I'm taking out all the trash. Final update. It's been almost 6 months since my last update. 6 months of court appearances, negotiations, and slowly rebuilding what feels like an entirely new life. Yesterday, I found an old photo of me and Stephanie buried in my cloud storage. What struck me wasn't the happy smiles or the vacation backdrop. It was how different I looked. Not just younger, but dimmer somehow. Like someone had turned down my brightness setting. Didn't even recognize myself. The divorce was finalized last week. Weird how something that changes your entire life is just paperwork and a judge's signature. Expected to feel something monumental. Instead, I just had a mediocre sandwich at the deli across from the courthouse and went back to work. Let me backtrack to where I left off. After Stephanie got served, things went from bad to nuclear. Within hours, she'd told everyone who would listen that I was having a mental breakdown, possibly cheating, definitely abusive, and basically the devil incarnate. The kitchen sink approach to character assassination. But here's where she miscalculated. Screenshots exist, and I had 6 years' worth. Every time someone messaged me about her latest claim, I'd just send relevant screenshots. Her calling me trash, her secret account statement, her text to Lindsay about being done with, no commentary needed, just receipts. By week 3, she'd burned through most of her social capital. Even Lindsay, her ride or die since college, started distancing herself after I forwarded their conversation thread where Stephanie had called Lindsay's boyfriend, budget store Ryan Reynolds, but uglier, behind her back. The most surreal moment came during our first mediation session. My attorney had advised being pragmatic. Split assets fairly, keep it clean, get out fast. But Stephanie arrived with a list of demands that made the mediator actually raise his eyebrows. She wanted alimony after a 6-year marriage with no kids, the apartment which we rented, my car, which I bought before we met, and half my retirement account, despite hiding her own assets. When the mediator asked about the separate account she'd been maintaining, She froze, then claimed it was savings for our anniversary trip. My attorney silently slid across the screenshots of her texts to Lindsay about using that money for post-Knox life. She burst into tears, not the manipulative kind from Jennifer's party, real, ugly crying. For a split second, I almost reached out to comfort her. 6 years of conditioning is hard to break. But then she looked up at me with this expression I'd seen 100 times before, calculation behind the tears, waiting to see if the old buttons still worked. They didn't. The settlement was finalized 2 months later. Standard division of assets, no alimony. I kept my retirement intact after proving her financial deception. She kept her secret account. We split the furniture. Done. Meanwhile, I was slowly rebuilding. Found a decent one-bedroom in a different neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it has huge windows and no mold issues. Started therapy, shout out to BetterHelp. Having sessions while sitting in my car on lunch break was a game changer. Reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. Small victories became my new normal. Cooking actual meals instead of just microwave stuff. Buying plants and keeping them alive. Setting up my place exactly how I wanted it. Using all the hot water without anyone complaining. Leaving dishes in the sink overnight because sometimes you're just tired, you know? Work has been a mixed bag. Had to use too many personal days for court stuff, which led to some awkward conversations with my boss, but landed a small promotion last month. Nothing life-changing, but enough for some breathing room in the budget. The social fallout has been the weirdest part. Friend groups splintered into Team Knox and Team Stephanie, with a few brave souls trying to maintain neutrality. Holidays were awkward AF. Thanksgiving at Tristan's featured people carefully avoiding any mention of, which somehow made her even more present. Albert, my brother, has been my rock through all this. He's the only one who ever straight up told me years ago that Stephanie was bad news. I didn't listen then. Should have. About 3 months after moving out, I tried dating again. Downloaded the apps, created profiles, the whole depressing circus. Had a few coffee meets that went nowhere. One promising connection fizzled after 3 dates. Started to wonder if maybe I was the problem after all. Then I met Abigail at a friend's board game night. Nothing dramatic, just easy conversation about terrible movies and her job teaching high school art. No immediate sparks or rom-com moments, just comfort. We've been seeing each other for about 2 months now, taking it slow. She knows the Cliff Notes version of the Stephanie saga. Hasn't run screaming yet, which seems promising. The Stephanie situation came to its final crescendo last month. I was grocery shopping on a Sunday morning, headphones in, comparing cereal prices like the newly budget-conscious single guy I am, when I felt someone staring at me. Turned around and there she was, looking rough. Not in a satisfying revenge movie way, just genuinely unwell. Hair thrown in a messy bun, wearing what I recognized as her "I've given up" sweats. Dark circles under her eyes. Shopping cart containing nothing but frozen dinners, wine, and cat food. We never had a cat. She spotted me noticing her and froze. For a solid 30 seconds, we just stared at each other between the Cheerios and the store-brand flakes. Then she abandoned her cart and walked straight to me. What followed was the most surreal conversation of my life. Started with accusation. Why did I have to destroy her? Then bargaining. We could still fix this if I'd just talked to her. Then a confession that blindsided me. She'd been having an emotional affair with a guy from her office. For 2 years. Nothing physical, she insisted, but they'd been connecting on a deep level. 2 years. Right when things started changing between us. She claimed she'd ended it when I left. Realized what she'd done. How she'd treated me. Said the trash comment was because she was trying to push me away out of guilt. That she'd been punishing me for her own failures. I just stood there, holding a box of off-brand Frosted Flakes, utterly unable to process what I was hearing. Part of me wanted to laugh. Part wanted to scream. Most of me just wanted to finish my shopping and go home. I finally asked her why she was telling me this now, when everything was settled. Her answer knocked the wind out of me. Because she'd bumped into Abigail and me at the movies last weekend and realized I was really moving on. That I looked happy. Happier than I'd been with her. I hadn't even seen her there. Told her I was sorry things ended the way they did. That I hoped she'd find peace. Then, I put the cereal in my cart and walked away. She called after me, voice cracking, asking if that's all I had to say after 6 years together. Turned back one last time and said, "You called me trash. I took myself out. Best decision I ever made." That was 3 weeks ago. Haven't heard from her since. Yesterday, I signed a 1-year lease on my apartment. Hung pictures on the walls for the first time since moving in. Little things, but they matter. Abigail came over and helped, laughing at my complete inability to hang anything straight. We ordered pizza, watched a terrible sci-fi movie, fell asleep on the couch. This morning, I woke up early, made coffee, stood at my window watching the sunrise, felt something I hadn't expected to feel again so soon, peace. I'm not naive enough to think the Stephanie chapter is completely closed. Life isn't that tidy, but I'm no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop, no longer bracing for the next insult or emotional gut punch. Sometimes, taking out the trash means taking yourself out of a toxic situation. Sometimes it means recognizing your own worth. And sometimes, it means leaving behind the people who can't see it. Final edit. A year to the day after the basement incident, I ran into Lindsay at the coffee shop. She told me Stephanie moved back to her hometown last month. Apparently, living in the same city as me became too painful. Found myself hoping she finds whatever she's looking for there. Not for her sake, but for whoever comes after me. Some cycles need to end.